Hello and welcome to Liberty News, the news publication that delivers the facts on an agenda. Today we have a very special story, and this week's episode is dedicated to it. Before I continue, I must advise you that articles listed may contain biases which may be related to media outlets being paid to skew information. When reading, please take what these news outlets say with a grain of salt, as the information may not be reliable. Since much of the information surrounds and is on Reddit, I encourage you to see what people are actually saying versus what the media is reporting. These sources are only used to either prove a point or if the story is reflective of public opinion. With the disclaimer out the way, Wall Street is getting a taste of its own medicine when millions of people on Reddit banded together to buy loads of heavily shorted stocks and put hedge funds on the verge of bankruptcy. Stocks include the likes of GameStop, AMC, Nokia, and BlackBerry to name a few, with the main focus on GameStop in today's video. With the short sellers desperately trying to minimize their losses, and Redditors not wanting to fold, there is much speculation as to the outcome of such events, but are not limited to a recession of equal to or exceeding severity to the recession we saw last year due to COVID-19. This story has picked up traction over the past week with explosive growth on the GameStop stock price, which has gone up over 1,000% in the matter of a couple days. Redditors on the subreddit WallStreetBets have done their deep dives and research and saw the potential in short squeezing GameStop, a company that was on the verge of bankruptcy. The stock price had $20 at the beginning of January and short interest which peaked at 140%. For those unfamiliar with how the stock market works and what shorting is, here's a brief explanation. For those who already know how the market works and what shorting is, there's the time code on screen right now to what time to skip to. The stock market works something like this. There is a company, say ABC Company, and they are a publicly traded company. This means that they have put out shares or very small amounts of ownership of the company for sale on the public market called a stock or a stock share. This stock share of the company will fluctuate in price based on the company's performance and how the public reacts to that performance and how confident the public is that the company will succeed. Simple enough. ABC Company sells small amounts of their company for people to buy, so ABC Company gets the funding they need, and the people buying the shares hope to sell those shares to someone else for more money than what they bought it for. Shorting, on the other hand, is kind of the opposite. Shorting is borrowing someone's share or shares in a company, selling it at one price, most likely high, and then buying it back at another price to give back to the person they borrowed from. Shorting is borrowing someone's share or shares in a company, selling it at one price, hopefully for them at a high price, and buying it back at another, hopefully for them at a low price, to give back the stock to the person they borrowed from. So take ABC Company and say that their stock price is at $100. Recently they've been having bad news coming out and confidence in the company is falling. Someone who is looking to short the stock will find someone to borrow the stock from and sell it as soon as possible. They don't borrow the stock for free. Most of the time they have to pay a fee or interest on the stock they borrowed. Now that the short seller has $100 in cash after selling the stock at $100, they are hoping that the bad news keeps on coming so the stock price will keep on going down. Eventually, ABC Company stock hits $20. The short seller then buys back the stock for $20 and returns it to the person they borrowed from, profiting $80. It is a bit of a complicated process and it took me a while to understand too. If you are interested at all about stocks and the stock market, I highly encourage you to learn about the market, how it works, and its fundamentals. However, if you actually decide to put money into stocks, it is your responsibility what happens to your money if you invest the money yourself. The stock market is a fascinating thing to learn about, but you have to know how much you're willing to risk losing and being okay with losing that money. You have to be prepared for the worst. With the explanation of the stock market and shorting basics out the way, here's what happened to GameStop. GameStop hasn't been doing too hot over the past couple years. Like most other brick-and-mortar stores, they've been slowly going out of fashion, being replaced with digital services and products. It was speculated during the first wave of the pandemic that companies like GameStop and AMC theaters would go bankrupt due to their need for physical sales or attendance. Short sellers were hoping to jump on this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to borrow absurd amounts of cheap stock, sell them back for the little value they have, and then buy them for the little to no value to give back to the people they borrowed from. This plan caught wind on Reddit and started gaining momentum when people started realizing the potential to disrupt these short sellers and their GameStop bankruptcy plans. The goal the subreddit WallStreetBets is hoping to achieve is by buying up as many GameStop shares as possible and getting as much money out of the short sellers as possible in the meantime. When the stock price keeps on going up, the short sellers are losing more and more money as they have to now buy the stock for the more expensive price in order to return it. If you feel bad for these people who are losing money due to their shorts bankrupting them, don't. Take Gabriel Plotkin for example. With the money he made off of shorting stocks, he spent $44 million on 2 Miami beachfront properties. $44 million on a plot of land and 2 houses. With the recent surge in wealth fellow Redditors have gained, many have gone and donated that money to hospitals or charities, or paid off their student loans, or paid off their own or family members' debts, things that people wish they were able to do. These Redditors have more effectively spent this wealth that these billionaires would have most likely spent towards another property or yacht. The entire WallStreetBets community is looking towards a short squeeze or a gamma squeeze, which would mean the GameStop stock price would be absurdly high, with estimates ranging between $1,000 and upwards of $10,000 and possibly more than certainly bankrupting Wall Street billionaires who owe GameStop stock. This may be great for the people currently invested in GameStop, but has gotten some people worried that this will cause a recession to rival the one of 2020. It is a possibility that decentralizing the wealth Wall Street has accumulated over the years may cause such an event, but don't worry. With many people having more money to spend, and some companies like Fidelity and Vanguard, who own large percentages of these skyrocketing stocks, distributing or reinvesting that money into companies that actually need the funding to progress in innovation, instead of circling around on whatever stock makes the hedge funds the most amount of money, we should expect more innovation and wealth as a society. Here's a quote: Wall Street doesn't understand innovation. Even if a recession does happen that is worse than the recession that happened last year, it may actually result in a wealthier economy overall. With more wealthy people looking to invest their money, and all of a sudden there's a massive dip in the stock market, more retail investors will buy the stocks that are very cheap and ride it out until the stock is just as or more valuable than it was before the crash. Here are some examples of stocks rebounding higher after the 2020 stock market crash. This whole stock ordeal has unearthed many problems that were known about Wall Street and the wealthiest top investors, however haven't been magnified as much since the 2008 recession. There have been widespread accusations with evidence of heavy market manipulation and fake news surrounding certain securities. The big issue that has landed Robinhood in boiling water was for temporarily blocking people from buying volatile stocks such as GameStop, AMC, Nokia, BlackBerry, Bed Bath & Beyond, and the list goes on, while allowing people to sell their positions. It was speculated this ban was put in place to allow for the stock price to go down and let the hedge funds recover their positions while the stock price was still low. Robinhood was not the only app accused of such antitrust behavior, as was TD Ameritrade and Wealthsimple, however they have not garnered as much controversy. Deliberate market manipulation like this is not only corrupt and illegal, but is also the underlying problem with the wealthiest top investors, preventing people from making trade decisions on their own, deflating the stock price to benefit one party because their interests supersede the interests of the public, and going on public news stations to lie about the securities is breaking the fundamentals of what a free market is. For these reasons, there have been civil suits filed against Robinhood, with the possibility of Robinhood's CEO, Vlad Tenev, standing before Congress on February 18th. CNBC is one such news outlet that has been on the receiving end of lots of backlash because of their eagerness and willingness to promote news such as hedge fund already closed its positions, or Redditors jump on next big boom, stories that have been proven as fake and misleading. It cannot be said definitively that news outlets such as CNBC have been paid to promote such narratives, but it is highly unlikely that they would promote such headlines without any other incentives. The promotion of silver, the slander of Redditors losing interest in GameStop, the misleading titles that so-and-so have closed their positions are all headlines and news segments geared towards inciting fear into the public. If the news would like to be more accurate, headlines such as silver at all-time high with little traction, or Redditors buy billboards all over the country, or trade volume strangely low for a booming stock would all be far more honest and reflective of the current market situation. To end this episode on a positive note, an unlikely turn of events has led to an unlikely outcome when politicians and figures from all across the political spectrum united in defending Wall Street bets. AOC to Ted Cruz to Elizabeth Warren to Elon Musk to Mark Cuban to Jon Stewart have all come together voicing their dissatisfaction against Robinhood and Wall Street after the stock market fiasco, with Elon Musk and Mark Cuban actively fighting against Vlad Tenev and continuing the rally against the hedge funds. It is an unusual sight to see Republicans and Democrats, capitalists and socialists, left and right, whatever you'd like to call the divide, joining hands against a common enemy, but it is most certainly a welcome one. AOC, Ted Cruz, and Elizabeth Warren have all pushed for action to be taken against Robinhood, with many class action lawsuits already being filed against the company. This is all for this week's news. Thank you for watching this special video and appreciate that you watch an unbiased take on today's news. Next week, hopefully, we'll return to regular news coverage. Links are in the description for every source used. Until next week, this has been Liberty News. This story has picked up traction over the past week with explosive growth of the GameStop stock price, which has... GameStop. Holy moly, that's a tongue twister.